I'm going to talk about the difference between a stock shaft and an aftermarket shaft. So one of the things that you'll often see is what appears to be, other than a colour difference, the same shaft. So both of these, same logo, same branding, same manufacturer, same graphics, bar the colour change. So what's the difference? Ultimately, what you've got in the aftermarket version are top quality materials, made in Japan in this instance, utilising different technologies, different materials to give the highest quality performance for tour level, ultimately designed around tour level speeds. What we then get in the stock option is actually a little bit of a difference. So one of the key things on these shafts where there is a difference, if we look down the tip end, on the aftermarket version there's a word called Velocore on there, and this is obviously the Ventus model. On the stock option there isn't one. That is one of the key differences between realistically a cost engineered product which is based around the aftermarket shaft but with lower grade material. So the Velocore in this instance is the key to Fujikura's success with this shaft, and what they've done is engineered a material that reduces the ovaling of the shaft. So under a load a shaft will squash a little bit, and when it squashes you get a little bit of inconsistency in how it loads and bends and ultimately performance. So what makes this such a good shaft and what's made it so popular on the tours across the red, blue and black and the TR series models is that consistency of loading and that reduced ovalizing, which gives the consistency of delivery, consistency of strike point and consistency of spin. The moment you remove that from the shaft, you are going to a lower quality product. Now, what we have, the reason brands will go down this route, so certain companies have always had partnerships, long-standing partnerships with particular brands. In this instance, TaylorMade and Fujikura. So for Fujikura, it's great marketing. They're getting their brand name out there in thousands and thousands of products. And so it's getting a link to the tour product. For TaylorMade, they've got what's perceived to be a great quality product in their stock offering, and again, so it works both ways for each of the brands. But performance-wise, what's the difference? So I'm going to hit a couple with each, talk through how they differ from a feel and from a performance point of view, and then really we can look at why is the aftermarket shaft a £300 shaft, and why is this one in a club that costs £450. So going to hit a couple with the stock Ventus first. So they're both the 5 regular, and one of the things that's going to be noticeable is the feel of each of the shaft to hit with. So with the cost engineered shaft, what they don't want is they don't want a harsh feeling shaft. They want it to feel usable. They want it to feel easy for your average club player to get some action, some kick from. So what's noticeable, even just in a waggle, is that little bit of loading and bending through the shaft. So it's going to feel active. And through the swing, you get a sense of that all the way through, so you can get a feel of the shaft loading, kicking, moving, so it doesn't feel like you've got to work it hard to get a response from it. So on the one hand, it can be a very good thing not having such a structurally harsh shaft, because the last thing you want is to stand over a driver thinking, my God, I've got to work this incredibly hard to get anything from it. So I'll do another one there. A little bit out the heel. What you tend to find is as you change direction, you're going to notice there's a little bit of wobble, a little bit of wave in it. That's where you're going to really feel it. Coming back into the ball, there is that little bit of kick and pop through. So obviously that was monstrously out the heel, so the spin's gone up. But if I go back to the data on the first shot, and this is purely for me, so this isn't going to be for everybody, but what generally for me what I would see there is launches in a good window, but the spin's a little bit on the higher side. So because of that, structurally that little bit less stable material in there versus the aftermarket version, there's a little bit more pop and kick of the head through the ball. So the technical differences in weight and profile, we're looking at a 4 gram difference in weight between the two shafts, and a torque rating of 0.4, 0.6 degrees lower in the aftermarket version. So again, what you're getting from the material is more of a kind of cling onto the club head, and what that does is it stabilizes the head through impact, gives it a bit of a tighter feel, but also in general reduces the spin a little bit. So by switching over to this, what also immediately you're going to feel, anyone kind of comparing them, you're going to feel trying to waggle that, there's a lot more stability through this upper half of the shaft. So there's less of a sense of that kick. You're going to visually see a little bit less movement. And the shaft plays stiffer. The actual rigidity of the shaft is a little bit higher, but it's structurally a tighter feel straight away. So that allows it to stand up to a little bit more of a hit. So through the ball, much crisper feel off the club face. So I'm not getting, for my swing, I'm not getting that sense of a little bit of a kick, that kind of fishing rod feel that some people talk about. And from a data point of view straight away, that one's launched a little bit higher, but what we can see from that is the spin's lower. So one of the key characteristics of the aftermarket shafts are the grade of material is generally designed to keep spin down a little bit more. So you're going to get a tighter feel, and you're going to get, in principle, a tighter overall performance. So the softer shaft profile can be very good for a lot of players where you're looking for a little bit extra kick and pop and flight. A little bit more recovery of the head. It can feel easier to turn the toe over. It doesn't quite work that way, but it's going to feel easier to get the club face squaring up. And going into the aftermarket shaft, it can stand up to more of a load, so it's going to feel tighter. It's going to feel like you can get into it a little bit more and work a little harder. But ultimately, it's giving more control to the club head. So what you gain from the aftermarket models is one, just much higher grade technology and material. The way the materials are layered down the shaft, the direction of the weave, the actual nuts and bolts of how the shaft's put together. There's just more R&D to it. There's more research. There's more development. There's more. They're looking at zonal frequencies and stiffnesses. Whereas in the stock shaft, it's a very, to all intents and purposes, it's a very basic shaft. It's designed to hit a certain weight, designed to hit a certain general kind of launch and spin broad profile, but ultimately it's designed to be not expensive. So between the two, there's a tangible difference to feel, but there's also, straight away in the data there. Now, granted, you could argue that for me, a stronger swing up over 100 miles an hour, that if I didn't see a better performance in this for spin, then there would be something wrong. And so there are going to be players that are going to be more suited to a softer profile of shaft, and therefore the stock shaft might be a good option for you. But the differential between the two, they are from a playing point of view, quite frankly, pretty close to night and day. So the upcharge, the costing of the aftermarket shaft is really down to the quality of materials. It's going to be impossible to get a stock option with the level of material that's in these shafts and engineered into an off-the-rack pricing. So that's really the kind of the main things to be aware of when you're looking at a product off the rack. If the graphics are they're going to be very similar, but they're very slightly different. If it's a terminology and numbering on the shaft, a word missing, then what you're not getting is the same product that you're seeing the tour guys play. So just to be aware of where those differences are. Quite a strong difference in playability and feel, but nonetheless, both shafts can be right for someone. They've just got to be right for you.